So I've come to chapter 43.
Oh, good.
It's all the way to the end.
Mm.
And all along Ribhu, I feel like just like Ribhu is talking to Nadaga, and he's being so loving and so encouraging. And I find myself sort of rooting for Nadaga. Yeah, and here he is, chapter 43 and chapter 40, 41, 42. He's, of course, Ribhu has just sort of blown him away. And here is Nadaga speaking to what's left.
Yeah.
And there's almost nothing left.
Nadaga's narration of attaining the state of Jivan Mukta, liberation while yet alive, abiding as the nature of the eternal, pure, realized, liberated, infinite consciousness by the grace of the Acharya teacher. At which number are you starting at? Just so I'll be able to catch.
I'm right at the beginning.
Okay. I'm not going to read, I'm just going to listen, but just so I can.
So the great sage Nadaga, in blissful rapture, with his inner attainment of the undivided supreme knowledge of Brahman, further praised the Guru in joy thus: worthy guide, by your discourse delivered in causeless compassion, I am rid of the delusion of the world and all, and have become Brahman, truth, knowledge, infinity. Elite among gurus, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, with all debilitating ignorance and other conditioning effaced, established as the infinite expanse of consciousness, blemishless, partless, continuous existence, awareness, the unsurpassed bliss, the all-complete and perfectly full, the peaceful, the ancient, the motionless nature, the incorporeal, with nothing apart, best of men and women. By the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, with all unreal delusion and other conditionings effaced, established as the pure, the massive bliss, the tireless, the free, the self-illumined nature, the eternal, the attributeless, the peerless, the taintless, the afflictionless, the blemishless, the complete, and the perfectly full non-duality.
I love everything has like liss at the end. The attribute liss. Everything liss.
Without,
Yeah.
just emptiness.
Like there's nothing in it. Like, but yeah, everything is in it at the same time.
Some more?
Yes. Or I can read some if you want when you get tired you can pass it over to me if you like. But yeah, go ahead.
So I go two more and then you jump in.
Okay, good.
If it's right.
Yeah.
My guide, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, rid of the delusion of the objects seen, established as the infinite expanse of consciousness, speckless, majestic, beyond the reach of the mind, the bondage-less Supreme Shiva, the Supreme Self, higher than the highest, the Supreme Space, the indivisible, the untainted, of the nature of knowledge. My Guru, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, the one infinite expanse of consciousness, rid of all covering and confusion, the permanent nature, the changeless consciousness, the mass of eternal bliss, the natural self, the indescribable, luminous expanse, the divisionless, greater than the great, the Brahman self, the undivided, with nothing of the Lord, Ishvara, and others. Whew. Luminous expanse.
It brings such joy, like I feel like such joy, like in the heart, like with this word. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like you might want to say something as well, but like I just feel like saying, like, you know, it's so beautiful, and it's pointing, of course, to like our ultimate nature, and not just our ultimate nature, like our nature all the time. But I feel like sometimes these kind of teachings, like non-duality teachings, especially this, like it's the, I don't know, like the richest or like the best or something, like non-duality teaching. But I feel like sometimes when people are hearing those type of teachings, and then we feel like we're living we're like a human, you know, and we're kind of identified with humanity. And even if we've seen that truth, you know, all of those things that are less, the attributeless, all of that, even if we've experienced that and seen it, somehow that with attributes is also still here, and it still plays out, you know. So I feel like sometimes when you're listening to those non-duality teachings, it can feel like as if you have to reach somewhere, you know, like I have to be rid completely of all attributes or something, and only then will I become, because you kind of have to use words, like, you know, I feel like the teaching, it's not, at least like this is my understanding on how I feel about it. I feel like it's pointing to the ultimate truth, but I don't feel it's like you don't really become it. You're always it, and already it all the time. And I don't feel like you really have to get rid of anything. Like all of that is, all of those beautiful words that describe what words actually truly can't describe. It's just pointing, I don't mean just pointing, but it's pointing to our true nature, that we can actually look beyond all of the conditioned self. Like I kind of had these words somehow come to me, maybe it was like during the week, but just like that I'm not my conditioned existence. So that doesn't mean that conditioned, like I think it probably can happen, and maybe it did happen in Nadaga's case, but I think it's in a very rare case that someone is completely free. And I don't know if there's even 100%, but let's say it's even probably a really rare case that you're 99.9% free of conditioned existence. But I think you can be like 99.9% free of identifying with conditioned existence. And I don't know, I just feel like that's a real important thing to say, because I don't know, I just feel like, you know, when you're probably, it's probably similar for you as well, if you're in satsang and you're associating with sangha and lots of people who are interested in non-duality, and you just feel like that's where people get caught, even people who really have a really clear, they've obviously had really clear seeings of the truth and experiences, but somehow because they're not experiencing it, or just because conditioning comes, it's like because conditioning comes, it feels like, oh, I'm not there yet or something. But like it's not true. And I suppose this book is like maybe like the best teaching, because like it's kind of saying over and over and over again, to be, what's the words it use, conviction, like to have complete conviction that you are that, like, and like, so like even when conditioning is there, you're just like, so to not identify it with it, it means you're completely convinced that that's got nothing to do with like your truth. I don't know, that's what I felt like saying. Mm-hmm.
The appearance of Amba in this life is, I would say, by grace alone, and
Mm-hmm.
this conviction is really strengthened by, you know, asserting over and over that it's by grace alone,
Yeah,
and that's really, really beautiful.
by grace alone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what's assumed there? You know, no one's doing it, right? It's uncaused.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I don't know if I shared it, but it's like with my own daughters when they were little, their laugh was psychedelic to me, and your giggle is like that too.
It's like, it's amazing to hear children laughing sometimes. It's like there's so much joy in it. Like it's just like it really feels like that sometimes for a child when they laugh. It's like the laugh bursts out of nothingness, isn't it? Like somehow it really, because it's not filtered and there's nothing on top of it or something. It's so pure or something.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
will I read some?
Yes.
Okay. So which number are we on?
I had read through, I think, five, which brings you to number 6,
Okay.
if that's the right one to start with.
Yeah. Supreme Guru, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, the one infinite expanse of consciousness. Rid of the divisions as the individual, the supreme and the world, the one, the best, the indestructible, the truth beyond the reach of the interpreting mind, the defectless, the whole, the sublime self, the ancient, the sacred, the untarnished, the undivided, with nothing of darkness or light or such. Wonderful Guru, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, the expanse of consciousness. Rid of all the delusion of differences in my heart, the abode of consciousness, all consciousness, clothed in consciousness, the mass of consciousness bliss, the meaning of that, the untrammeled, the unfatigued, the truth, standing all by itself, without anything of the trivial, fearless, intersticeless. I don't really know what that means. I don't even know if I'm saying that word right. Anyway, it's list, so it doesn't matter. It's not there. We don't need to know the details of something that's not there. All pervasive and incomparable. Guru true, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become Brahman, the blemishless expanse of consciousness, free from all the latent impressions of the mind, the mass of truth consciousness bliss, motionless, the equanimous, the eminently serene, the eternal, the spotless, the confusionless, the unveiled, the actionless nature, the non-dual, the undivided, the complete whole. Great sage, by the instruction with which you have graced me, I have become the blemishless expanse of consciousness, with all mental mystification melted in a moment, the errorless, the attributeless, the identityless, the defectless, transcending the triad of qualities, with no misconception ever, the one complete whole, without anything to detract from it, the originless and endless, the undivided. So beautiful, isn't it? Wonderful. It's like, I feel like it's so funny, like it's a book, but like this is like, you could use this as an analogy for everything in a way, but it's like a book. It looks like a book and it looks like words, but like it's not a book. It's not a book, and it's definitely not just words. And like, I think I read at the start recently, and I read it before, but I was reconnecting with it because of you, because I haven't actually I probably read it like between 5 years ago and this time, but like I definitely wasn't that connected with it, so I was reconnected. And at the beginning of the book it says that Ramana Maharishi, or they used to read it in front of Ramana Maharishi, and he said that when you read the book, it induces that state itself, like the state of samadhi, or maybe one of those samadhis that have another name in front of them. But you can definitely feel like when you read the words, like, and it doesn't take many. You don't have to read like a whole chapter. You might not even need to read a whole verse, just like 1 or 2 lines, and like it just feels like it really does alter your state. But like I don't feel like that's the point. Like I don't feel like we need to alter our state or something. I feel like every state just is, and of course like it's really natural in this world that just like the way it is, that like our states change all the time. And I don't feel like, I wouldn't like to encourage, or it can kind of be another idea, I suppose, like there's thousands and millions of like spiritual like ideas, but that we should be looking to attain one supreme state or something. I don't kind of like to believe that. I don't like to believe anything. But I especially don't like to believe that there should be one state, because sometimes when you're reading texts like this, I think it can give that interpretation. The mind can, it's like the mind wants to take anything and then make an interpretation, and I don't know, the word that's coming is like adulterate it or something, or make it something that's not. So I feel like when you read things like this, and even also because you feel it, you really feel that like blissful state when you're reading it. So it can, the mind can, and I can probably say 1,000 things, a million things, but it could suggest, that like this is the state I should be in the whole time. But I don't feel like it's like that. It's literally pointing beyond all states. Like, and that bliss that it's talking about, it's not a bliss of states. It's like, it's blissful because it's not of states. In a way, isn't it? Like, and it's like there's nothing separate there. Like there's nothing to experience states in a way. Like there is words, because you have to use words, and it's calling it a state. Like I think, I don't know if it even uses the word, but I think it somewhere like in my it's pointing to saying like it's a state of bliss, but it's actually beyond all states.
I think you're speaking to the risk of grasping. Yeah. So bliss feels really good.
Yeah.
Thinking of Amba for the last couple of weeks has felt really good, but it's easy to sort of get carried away.
Yeah.
And so it's going away and coming back, and going away and coming back.
And even to believe that, like, because we do, like, the whole like problem or something is that we're buying into ourselves as being a separate individual. So then we sometimes project that there's a person out there, and it can be that they're like an enlightened person, or like a liberated person, but like they're liberated and I'm not, So but even if we're doing that, you're separating, but there's no such thing as someone over there who's liberated and someone here who's not. Like that's a complete story, and even for someone who's over there who appears to be liberated, they're only talking about the liberated state, which is the only thing that is, and not state. That's not like the right word. They're talking about the part of them that they discovered themselves to be the truth of what the only thing that is. They're talking about like liberation, like as a word for all that is. They're talking about that, but I feel like sometimes because we're believing ourselves to be like separate or something, so then, and then this one over here is talking about the liberated state, so they must be liberated and I'm not. But actually no, they're saying that you're not that thing, that you're not that separate thing, you are this liberated state. That's like all of those words, list, everything, list. You're, and especially separateness. That's not a word, but it is now. It's just like you're not. Basically, you're not a separate person. Like we're not apart from each other. We're both of us, both of these bodies. Like, so you can see that body of this body of Amba and this body of Steve, and they're both just appearances. Like they're just images within yourself only, and that yourself is the same yourself everywhere. Like that's what we see. That's what we see when we look, and that's what these kind of texts are like reminding us over and over again. But even somehow when we're reading these texts and loving them and all, somehow it just like can slip back in that we take ourselves to be like a separate thing. And that's why it's wonderful to read these things over and over again as well. And I suppose like the Ribhu Gita says, like to just have the conviction like, all the time that I'm not the separate thing. And even if you believe for some time, like, or take yourself to be the separate thing, it doesn't even matter. Like, as soon as you recognize, oh, I've been taking myself to be this body for some amount of time, it doesn't matter. You just say, oh, okay, and then like you just like, you know, just forget about it, because it's like every form, every human form that's like being in the world has taken themselves to be. I don't know if it's true, like 100% true, but mostly, like, most bodies have identified themselves with form for some amount of time. So what difference does it make? It's like all that matters is really right now. That right now we're not taking ourselves to be form, and that's all there ever is right now.
There's plenty of verses left, but we seem to
Yeah.
have run out of the need to read them.
Yeah.
But
No,
I could read it. I would
yeah,
love to read another couple to you.
yeah, sure. I'd love to.
And it's absolutely gorgeous to hear you speak between them. So why don't I read 2 verses and then be quiet and see if something comes?
Yeah, and also if anything just like comes to you, feel free to share. Like, I'd love to hear whatever comes up for you.
What's come is a certain awe and admiration for the ability that seems to be demonstrated here, of going away and coming back to just sort of this moment, and to the realization that, oh, you know, that's nothing. There was distraction, there was getting carried away, and now we're back.
Yeah.
And big deal, right?
Exactly. It's no big.
And so, you know, from this side, there's the desire to, you know, really take that with me. You know, I must never forget that. I've got to hang on to this.
Yeah.
But there you go again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's okay. It's not like the worst thing to hang on to for a while, because in a way, it's like, it can be kind of like training your mind or something. It's like you're training your mind, that even though your mind can't come there, but it's like you're training your mind to remind you, or something, a part of your mind to remind you that, oh, I'm none of this, I'm not this, and then like to just like settle into the heart or something. So it's not like the worst thing. And then, of course, like, eventually, or not eventually, but you don't need the reminders anymore all the time. But even sometimes the reminders are good. Like, I don't feel like I would ever get tired of hearing something like this. Like, sometimes you can feel as if you are tired of something like this, and like, no, I don't want to. But like, and maybe, you know, there's different times for different things. But like, if you ever hear something like this, it's super beautiful. You can't really get tired of it. But of course, there are times when you don't need to be reminding yourself all the time that, like, I am the self. You know, like, the self doesn't need to be reminded of its truth. It's just, you know, like, you can think, if you're out for a walk in nature or something, and you're just enjoying, you're enjoying the scenery, and you're just totally at peace in your heart, and you're just being. You're not like reminding yourself, like, I'm just being. You know, you don't have to remind yourself anything. You're like just totally at peace. So like, in the same way, you don't really need to be reminding yourself all the time. But I suppose it's just when, I suppose we don't want to get like into the delusion thing. But it doesn't really matter. It's like, the only trouble seems to come, it's actually when we remember that we're not that. Because if you're totally in delusion, you're not, well, you do suffer in delusion, but it's like, there's a different kind of delusion almost, when you realize that you're not that, and you've been taking yourself to be that, and there can be almost like a guilty feeling or something. And I must remind myself, and I must be blissful, or I must be I must like make my attention rest in the self or something. You know, like that's also, it's kind of like, I think it's okay, and maybe it's a step on the spiritual path, and of course it's like a beautiful pointing and all, but like in a way it's better to just let go of everything.
Mm. Mm.
Like, oh, yeah.
What's sort of showing up is a little bit from time to time on this side is sort of an awareness of awareness. And that seems to be what's being spoken of here.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Like my, I suppose like I would call him my teacher because I have so much love for him, and I don't know, but somehow I don't feel like that comfortable. Maybe because of where I am in the world, and I don't like calling him my guru or something. But like he kind of is. So Ananta. But like one of his teachings, he kind of, yeah, one of his teachings, at least in the very beginning when I started like listening to him at first, was just, "Are you aware now?" And then like that's just like you're aware that you're aware. Like that's it. That's like super simple, and like that's like just a pointing to like the truth of who you are. Like just like you don't need all the, you know, there's so many words, like 1,000,000,000 words. Like, are you aware now? Yeah, okay, fine. So nothing else. Like you don't have to you don't have to discover anything else. You're aware. You're aware that you're aware, just exactly like as you said. But somehow it is also as well the awareness of awareness. Somehow you could, there is like a deepening into somehow, and it's not that we need to look for that, because as soon as you're aware that you're aware, like it's totally enough. Like there's perfect contentment here, and just like perfect contentment in that, isn't it? Like what else do we need other than that? But somehow it seems like, you know, the more like time goes on, like as we're in like the world, like as we experience like that, it does seem like there's a deepening into that, like that. Yeah, so somehow it can feel like somehow like at the beginning that like, you know, that, you know, I'm aware that I'm aware, but actually the more like you like rest in that, then it's just like you just like just don't know anything. like like you can't, like you can say I'm aware, but like you can't say anything about it. So even though there's like 1,000 words in this, like literally 1,000 words, like describing it and all, it does in a way, it kind of, it doesn't describe it because the words can't touch it, but it really does kind of really points to it really well. I have to say, like it points to it really well. It's like you say loads of words and then you feel like, oh, like, you know, all the words I've said didn't actually mean anything. So in a way, even like this, it's like all the words like so beautiful, but like at the end, it's like, oh, I didn't actually say anything because you can't say it. Like you can't say it. Anyway, I talk too much.
Is that our 30 minutes already?
That is our 30 minutes. Yes.
What a pleasure and a gift. So grateful. So grateful. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much. I think it's a really it's really beautiful. Like it's a gift that I feel like, I'm just going to say it like this, that you're given to us because it was your idea. So it's life flowing through you that we're able to like come together and connect with, and like the essence, isn't it, or like the energy of the rhythm. Because when you pick up any book, I feel like when you pick up any book, you kind of tune in with the energy of the author. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but you can really feel their energy. So somehow when we're reading this, you do tune into that. It's like being in satsang. You know, if you're sitting in like a physical satsang with a teacher, there is a presence there, that you can feel, and even though all teachers, I suppose, are pointing to the same thing, there is still something that's a different quality, and it's not about that, but there's also a quality to this as a there's a quality to this. So even though it's pointing to like beyond qualities, there's still a quality. probably do.
Mm.
So, thank you.
Well, what desire is left here is to carry this in my heart until next time. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very grateful. So I'm just gonna press stop and then